Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of this F1 24 Driver Career Mode with myself driving for RB in our second season. If you did miss the last episode, Max Verstappen was back to his winning ways, winning the British Grand Prix with Lando Norris and Fernando Alonso rounding off the podium. And for ourselves, just nothing worked for us in the strategy, and for whatever reason, a really good pace that we had in the qualifying to get ourselves a P4 finish just disappeared, absolutely disappeared, and we ended up coming home in a very, very saddening P16. It was, a very boring race for myself. Max Verstappen, he'll lead the Drivers' Championship by 49 points to Lando Norris. George Russell sits in P3 at the moment, 104 points behind. Myself in P6, 7 points behind Charles Leclerc. And our teammate Daniel Ricciardo sits in 16th position, 3 points behind Alex Albon. Red Bull, they're leading the Constructors' Championship at the moment by 47 points to McLaren. Then it's Mercedes sitting in third, 126 points behind, and RB, we find ourselves sitting in P6, 37 points behind Aston Martin. And we're going to jump straight to the powertrain department for a major ERS upgrade, and we're just going to go for the Sten development rate, which has a 0% failure rate, which will get the part in just before the Dutch Grand Prix, but rushing the part will actually get it before Belgium and only had 25% failure rate, which is pretty low considering. So we're actually going to attempt the rush development to try and get it in sooner. And there has been a massive change in the vehicle performance chart. So the gap to Red Bull has pretty much now been closed by McLaren. Sauber have also brought upgrades this weekend, and and so have ourselves. So we have now jumped the likes of Aston Martin, Ferraris, and Mercedes to become, on paper, the fourth fastest car on the grid at the moment. Alpine have also brought a heap of upgrades to narrow the gap down to Ferrari. Williams also bring in some small upgrades to start pulling away from Haas, who haven't brought a single upgrade since Spain, and we'll get straight into qualifying.
High-speed straights, heady elevation changes and dramatic corners. What is there not to love about today? It's qualifying day here at Spa-Francorchamps.
And this is definitely one of the better qualifying sessions of the season. A very, very fast flying circuit, which makes it a very satisfying lap to get done as we come to the end of our first flying lap here in qualifying one. We've got Logan Sargent sitting ahead of us with a 1 minute 43.2, and we will easily eclipse that time doing a 1 minute 41.6 and putting us P3 respectively. And that was going to be our only lap of the session, with Lando Norris finishing in first position in this opening session ahead of Charles Leclerc by a tenth. Verstappen in third position, also a tenth behind. Myself in P7, 3 tenths behind. Ricciardo makes it through in P12, a knocked out in qualifying one. Esteban Ocon, Carlos Sainz in another early exit in that Mercedes. Nico Hulkenberg, Zhou Guanyu, and Logan Sargent not making it to this very next part of qualifying. And as we come to the end of our next lap, it is going to put us P5 or a tenth behind Valtteri Bottas, who's in that Sauber, and we will go around for another lap and we'll come to the end of it. And so we're only really getting 2 laps in, if we're lucky, with the cooldown laps and just how long this circuit is. And we crossed the line, and I reckon that is a P3, and it is a third position for us here in qualifying 2, which is a pretty good lap for ourselves. Max Verstappen is fastest in qualifying 2, ahead of his teammate Sergio Perez, making it a Red Bull 1-2 in this session. Myself third, a tenth behind, and knocked out in qualifying 2. Fernando Alonso by less than a tenth. Alex Albon, Daniel Ricciardo, Pierre Gasly, and Lance Stroll not making it to this final part of qualifying here in Belgium. And we'll go to the end of the first sector for ourselves here, and as we come down the hill into the hairpin, we just pinch that right front just a little bit, and it sends us a bit wide. And then now I'm on catch-up mode. I need to try and catch up all the time, and I have a big moment heading down the hill, and that is going to for sure cost a lot of time, that wobble and getting back off the throttle. But we'll come to the end of our lap now, and this is going to be it. This is our only flying lap, and I reckon that is a P6 for ourselves. So not too bad, but definitely could have been a lot better. Max Verstappen, he is on pole position for the Belgian Grand Prix ahead of Charles Leclerc. Then it's Oscar Piastri in third, half a second behind. And considering the mistakes that I made, P6 and 7 tenths behind, so not too bad.
Welcome then as we take a step back into the nostalgic golden days of motorsport. Spa is unashamedly a throwback, and all the better for it. Climbs, drops, sharp turns, chicanes, sweeping high-speed corners, all while taking in some of the most beautiful scenery that Europe has to offer. This might sound like a travel brochure, but it's not. It's a race day. Welcome along to Spa-Francorchamps for the Belgian Grand Prix. So here we are once again, ready to go racing through the Ardennes forest. 4.35 miles of long straights, fast corners, and massive elevation changes. It makes this not only one of the most exciting circuits on the calendar, but one that makes for some consistently high quality racing as well. Simply put it, there's no place quite like it. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks like for today's race. Max Verstappen put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he'll start from pole position. And it's Charles Leclerc in P2. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Oscar Piastri, Norris, Russell, Lightning, Tsunoda, Perez, Bottas, Hamilton, Fernando Alonso, Ricciardo, Gasly, Stroll, Ocon, Sainz, Hulkenberg, Joe, Sargent, and Alex Albon picks up the last spot on the grid. Now it's almost time for lights out, so let's go down to the track. And alongside me in the commentary box, my old friend, Anthony Davidson. Look, we know it's not where you start, it's where you finish. But let's talk about the start now. What's there to help the drivers get away well?
Big pressure at the start of the race, Crofty, for all of them up and down the grid, no matter where you are. But the drivers these days, they practice, practice, and practice. They have rigs with them at the circuit where they can sit down with the actual steering wheel from the real car, and they've got lights that they react to. The clutch paddle is tailored around the driver's hands, around their fingers, so they can have optimum position before they start. So there's so much thought and effort that goes into getting these cars off the line.
Alrighty, and taking a look here at the strategy. So the default strategy is a medium to hard, but you can see there that there isn't really that much tyre wear for using this strategy. So what my idea is that I'm going to shorten, like slash it in half, the opening stint, and go for a set of softs that I used in qualifying, and essentially go for a soft tyre and then try and get a really good undercut on the hards and go to the end. And we're going to have to see how this plays out, going for an alternate strategy compared to the rest of the field. It is 5 red lights, and we are off for the Belgian Grand Prix here in Season 2 of My Driver Career Mode. And it is a alright start. We get a lot of initial wheel spin, but we go down the inside of Oscar Piastri at the first corner, and he kind of gets a bit of a better exit on us, as he is on a preferred racing line there, so we'll tuck in behind him. But once again, as we now go up the hill through Radion and through Eau Rouge, and it is going to be single file for now, but further behind it is in fact actually still double file, so they're doing really well on cold tyres and full fuel to be able to get themselves through their side by side. And it is Yuki Tsunoda at the moment edging out his teammate to try and get himself inside the top 10, the two Saubers battling it out. And for ourselves, we've now got Russell and Norris ahead. They've gone side by side, and it's held up Oscar Piastri, and we've gone to swing to the outside, dip a wheel into the gravel, and that is us now up into P5. But because of dipping the wheel into the gravel, we have to defend, and we make some contact, and that's underfloor damage for ourselves. And Oscar Piastri as well, I think, may have some front wing damage from that as well. So not a great start between the two Aussies here, as Sergio Perez is making his way through the field, and that is him now up into P8 ahead of the Spaniard Fernando Alonso there, as Yuki Tsunoda. He's inside the top 10, but he is now also looking to get himself ahead of Alonso. So the Aston Martin's not looking too shabby at the moment, falling down the order. Charles Leclerc makes a move to get himself now up into the lead of the Grand Prix. Bottas around the outside. Is he going to possibly try and get Tsunoda as well? No, he can't, so he's going to tuck in behind. But that is Alonso down the one straight now, down 2 positions, and you can see Lewis Hamilton, he is now behind Sergio Perez. So Perez able to make yet another overtake and to get himself up into P7, and he's now tucked in behind the wounded Oscar Piastri with that front wing damage, and it's not going to take very long at all for Sergio to now catch up. And with the DRS, he is going to get the pass completed pretty much in the braking zone on Oscar Piastri. Back on board with ourselves. We've got our first objective of the race, and we need to overtake Russell. So Mark kind of now knows that these soft tyres aren't going to last forever, so we need to try and make the most out of them. But you can see I'm struggling to keep up with George Russell. These already used soft tyres are definitely already starting to get to the crossover point, and it is happening a lot sooner than I was expecting. So this hard tyre stint could be a lot longer than first realised, as the two Saubers are continuing to battle it out. But it's actually going to be Valtteri Bottas Bottas, though, that's getting himself ahead of Lewis Hamilton. As Hamilton now, he is looking like he could possibly fall outside of the top 10 in the Ferrari. And for ourselves, we are now boxing a lap early to get off these softs. I managed to hold on for another lap, but you can see that Sergio's caught up to us. I've well and truly lost George Russell, nearly 3 seconds behind, so we're going to pull it in a lap early and try and get onto these hard tyres and see what sort of undercut we can try and pull off. I do think that the undercut is going to be quite big around here, so this could actually play out into my favour, getting onto the hards even earlier than anticipated. But hopefully the tyre wear towards the end of the race compared to the AI is it's not going to be too drastic where I'm going to be falling off an absolute cliff, but we'll come out of the pits in absolute dead last position, so it's all to play for now. We have to make our way through the field as best as we can. Max Verstappen is now looking to try and get himself back in front of Charles Leclerc for the lead of the Grand Prix, and he will take the lead of the Grand Prix. The two Saubers battling it out. It looks like Valtteri Bottas will now get himself ahead of his teammate Yuki Tsunoda, and Fernando Alonso has got himself past Pierre Gasly there to get himself now ahead into the points, and so that is him sitting P10. Lewis Hamilton is now outside of the points, sitting P12, kind of got a train happening behind him. And Pierre Gasly now, he is looking to get himself back ahead of Fernando Alonso. Could this be him back into the points? He's going to the inside here at turn 4, and he is going to swing around the outside, and that is going to be him now up inside the points. So the Alpine now knocks out the Aston Martin from the points, and on board with ourselves here, we've got our next objective, which is to get to P17 in only 4 laps time. P17 is currently 2.5 seconds up the road, so hopefully with how quickly we've caught up to the back of this pack, we can make very quick work of this, and we'll take a look further ahead now. And this is George Russell. Oh, he's had a bit of a moment there. He's got the tail out, and he is well and truly out sideways now. He's in the gravel, and he's lost the position to Sergio Perez. What has happened there to George Russell on board here with the Mercedes driver? He cracks it out sideways through the right hand and through the left hand. It completely loses it, dips the wheel into the gravel, and nearly takes out Sergio on his way through as he's trying to gavel it up. Now on board with Sergio, you can see George Russell's lost it here, and he kind of slows back to the racing line, and even Sergio had to back out of it just slightly. But on board with ourselves now, we're going for the dive on Logan Sargent, and that is going to be us now up into P19, and we are within the DRS already still with Zhou Guanyu of the Haas, and we're going to try and make very quick work of this, and we've got the objective to try and get the 17th position, and so we've got incentive as Charles Leclerc gets himself now to the lead of the Grand Prix. Once again, we've got a top 3 battle here for this race win, and we're now tucked right behind Zhou, and we go for the dive in a very audacious spot. Definitely not an overtaking opportunity, but we just had such a good run, and I didn't want it to go to waste, and so now we can put our focus to Nico Hulkenberg, who, as marked, is currently in P17, so he's the driver that we have to try and get by if we want to finish this objective. And so I'm going to dump a heap of ERS here to try and get a bit of a run going. We're going to use a little bit of side-by-side action through here, down this a very long back straight, and we're going to try and outbrake him. Hopefully we complete the objective as we get our nose ahead of Nico Hulkenberg, and we're going to go very late on the brakes, squeeze him out at the apex, and that is going to be us now up into P17, and we can try and chase down Alex Albon in that Williams just ahead. But it is to Valtteri Bottas now. We're watching a replay here because he's able to get himself ahead of Oscar Piastri here. You can see there on the front wing the damage, no end plate there for Oscar Piastri, so he's definitely still wounded and dropping down the order as the Sauber Valtteri does get the move done. It actually is a bit weird though how long Valtteri was in 7th gear there. He was really riding the top end of 7th gear there before he shifted up into 8th, and Yuki Tsunoda, his teammate, is now looking to take his shot at getting past the wounded McLaren, and he'll go to the inside here at turn 4, and this should be a pretty easy move as he swings it around the outside, and we'll give him the inside, and that is him now up into P7 of the Grand Prix so far. And further ahead, Lando Norris, he's currently sitting P3, but he's stuck in the train, so he's actually going to pull it in first, but before the other 2 leaders, and he's going to come into the pit lane here, and I would imagine, I'm presuming this is going to be for the hard compound tyres for Lando Norris here. He'll pull it into the pit bay here, and we can see the white wall hard tyres there sitting for him, and they're going to be going onto the car for him, and that will be his one and only stop. We've now caught right up to the back of Alex Albon. He is tucked up behind Fernando Alonso, so we're going to go for the dive down the inside into the bus stop chicane, and we're going to now get hit. We've absolutely been drilled from behind, and that has violently spun us around, and we have now lost absolutely everything. We're back behind Logan Sargent, Fernando Alonso. We're behind all those guys, and where is this going to put us now? Because we were right about to find out how good of a undercut this is going to be in George Russell. George Russell's got back out in front of us he's actually gained his advantage. I genuinely reckon I would have come out in front of him if I wasn't spun. On board with Alex here. So I get the overtake done, and then, he's trying to go to the pits, and he just hooks us. Oh, Nico Hulkenberg, he's a big winner out of this. He gets a couple of positions out. While all that was happening, we also see here Max Verstappen. He has got himself ahead of Charles Leclerc to take the lead away of the Grand Prix once again. And so he'll be very thankful he got that one done as well, just in case if there was a safety car. So now he is back into the lead of the Belgian Grand Prix. Lando Norris, he's making very quick work coming out of the pits to get himself ahead of the other Mercedes of Carlos Sainz. Seemingly are struggling Mercedes so far this season. Carlos Sainz hasn't really been able to do too much than what I first anticipated, considering it was going to be Lewis Hamilton's replacement this season. Verstappen and Leclerc now pull into the pits. Max's teammate Sergio Perez, he's going to stay out so he doesn't double stack, and I would imagine once again this is going to be for the hard compound tyres. There are the white sidewalls, and he is going to be going on for his one and only pit stop. But we're going to stay with this for a second to just try and see whereabouts he's going to come out relative to Lando Norris, considering Lando stayed out, pitted that lap early. And there goes Lando Norris down the main straight, and how big of a lead is that going to be, considering it was only a one lap undercut that he's going to get, and he is well ahead, well and truly outside of DRS for Max Verstappen. So Lando Norris, an absolute great strategy to jump himself from P3 up into first position, and the battling is not going to stop there, as Lewis Hamilton's now trying to get himself past our teammate Daniel Ricciardo, and that is Lewis now back inside the points after dropping outside of the points, surprisingly, and considering how good Charles is doing. It was a bit of a surprise to see Lewis dropping out of the points, and we have made a massive mistake there out of the first corner. We're bottling under the pressure of Valtteri Bottas, who has been hounding the back of our car so far. We're going to go side by side through Eau Rouge and Raidillon, and we are going to continue going side by side, but the straight line speed of that Sauber is just no match for us, and he's got the DRS just to add the salt into the wound. And further ahead, while we were battling, Charles Leclerc has got himself back ahead of Max Verstappen, with which what I would imagine he would have thought would have been for the race lead, but that brilliant strategy play from Lando Norris has seen him in the lead. And we'll do a bit of an order check here while we're at it. Shows Lando Norris leads the way ahead of Leclerc and Max Verstappen, and then it's Sergio Perez in P4, George Russell, Valtteri Bottas just ahead of myself in P7. Then it's Yuki Tsunoda, a wounded Oscar Piastri. He still hasn't gone in and got that damage fixed, so he's doing very well to still be in P9. Then Lewis Hamilton's rounding out the points at the moment. Then it's our teammate Daniel Ricciardo ahead of Pierre Gasly. Then it's Carlos Sainz and Esteban Ocon, the two Astons of Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll, who have been slowly dropping through the field. Then it's Zhou Guan Yu, the two Williams of Logan Sargent and Alex Albon. And then Nico Hulkenberg is currently the last car on the road, with all 20 cars still in the Grand Prix as it stands. Max Verstappen, he is looking though, he wants to line up getting a P2. He's going to have to go to the inside of the Ferrari, which turns into the outside, and he's going to swing past that Ferrari, and that is him now up into P2. But then battling has now let Lando Norris get a 4-second lead. So this is really doing well for Max Verstappen to get himself back up into P2, considering his title rival is leading the Grand Prix. But at the same time, he is now losing ground to Lando Norris. We've got our next objective, and we need to achieve a pretty good average time here, which is a very smart thing for Mark to tell me, because I am trying to stay with Valtteri Bottas, because I can see that he is also gaining on George Russell, so I could possibly benefit from this as well if I can stay with Valtteri and try and get either both Valtteri and George, or maybe just George, because the pace of that Sauber does really seem rapid at the moment. Lewis Hamilton continuing to battle with our teammate Daniel Ricciardo, and that's going to be him still inside the points in P10. And now a lap later, you've got Oscar Piastri falling, and this could be him now nearly outside of the points, dropping to P10, and with Lewis Hamilton now getting himself ahead. But it's now our teammate's turn. He's going side by side, and we've now got ahead a slow Sauber, and that is a very slow Yuki Tsunoda, who's pulling off to the side of the track, and that is him out of the Grand Prix in a big plume of smoke. Oscar Piastri has dropped now down to P10, with our teammate Daniel Ricciardo getting ahead of him. And back on board with ourselves here. I am dumping a lot of ERS here to try and get myself closer to Valtteri, because I reckon this is going to be where Valtteri makes the move on George Russell. I've been working really, really hard to try and save some battery, and to also try and get myself as close as I can to Valtteri, but I just wasn't able to do it. And so Valtteri, he will get the move done on George Russell, but you can see that has kind of slowed up George Russell a little bit. Now he's in the dirty air, and I have now well and truly closed up to the back of George Russell, so I could still benefit from this, but it it is going to be an absolute miracle if I can get myself to Valtteri Bottas as well to try and claim that P5. Pierre Gasly, though, he is looking to get himself inside the points here. He is looking to the outside of Oscar Piastri, which will give him the inside, but he's now back to the outside and now continue to go side by side on this little run down the hill, but Oscar Piastri slots back in behind the Alpine there, and that is going to be now Oscar outside of the point. So he's done really well to get to lap 20, essentially, lap 21, to get himself to finally fall outside of the points with that damage. But for ourselves, we have got ourselves ahead of George Russell, and we're also going to pass our objective. And so now we can start the final lap of the race and try and maybe see if we can't get to Valtteri here, but that is going to be a tall order. He is 8 tenths ahead of us down the road, and I think we're just going to have to settle for a P6 here if we're able to defend from George Russell, but all eyes turned to Lando Norris. They've played the strategy beautifully, and Lando Norris will claim victory in Belgium and upset Max Verstappen and ruin his winning streak once again. Charles Leclerc will take a P3, and for ourselves, we do manage to hold off from George Russell, and we're going to cross the line to claim a P6 here from what could have been a much better day, but we'll take P6 considering absolutely getting punted at the bus stop chicane and getting lap 1 damage. So not too bad of a day to still claim some good points.
Here's the checkered flag, and our winner has Lando's. It's Lando Norris for victory. Our winning drivers are on their way to the podium right now. It's been a fantastic race for McLaren, that's for sure. And no doubt, they'll be celebrating tonight.
So that was the Belgian Grand Prix here in Season 2 with Lando Norris claiming victory ahead of Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc. And yeah, I genuinely reckon if I wasn't spun out at the bus stop chicane when we were about to see how good the undercut was, and Lando proved the undercut is good, going from P3 to P1 in only a 1-lap undercut, considering we were out there for about 5 laps before they did. I genuinely reckon a podium could have been on here, but that is all in theory now. The rest of the top 10, Sergio Perez, Valtteri Bottas, myself in P6, George Russell, Lewis Hamilton, Daniel Ricciardo, and Pierre Gasly rounds out the points, with Yuki Tsunoda actually classed as 3 laps down, considering he pulled off the track in that big plume of smoke. Max Verstappen leads the Drivers' Championship by 42 points to Lando Norris, and it's George Russell in third, 116 points behind. Myself in P7 now, only 1 point behind Sergio Perez. Daniel Ricciardo is 16th, only 1 point behind Alex Albon, and Red Bull leads the Constructors' Championship by 52 points to McLaren. Mercedes sit third, 150 points behind, and RB, we find ourselves P6, 27 points behind Aston Martin, and we are currently now losing our heated championship rivalry against Sergio Perez. We need to get to 95 championship points to claim victory in this rivalry, and our driver ratings, our experience, racecraft, awareness, pace and focus, they've all gained plenty of points, and that has now given us a driver rating overall of 90, and our driver recognition against our teammate has actually remained at 60% as well. And that is going to be all for this episode. We do have a small season break in the calendar before the next episode for the Dutch Grand Prix, so that is going to be all for today. And if you did enjoy, please make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you for the next one.